driver. They switched drivers on it. What's off? I'm sorry, Kate. The goodies are going to have to wait.
Coming up on this edition of Old Joe's Reminiscence, backup probe C.R. Grover joins forces with a gossip columnist as they go in search of Midas to investigate a billionaire recluse who hasn't been seen in public in a year and a half. Is the man still alive? Episode 8 of Search stars Doug McClure as C.R. Grover. Barbara Feldon guest stars. It's time once again for me to watch and discuss an episode of Search, a 1972 science fiction detective series. When I purchased the DVD set, I felt that I should do a little bit more than just rewatch the episodes alone. So, I decided to share my love of this relatively unknown series, and thanks for joining me! After reading the synopsis, I find that I don't remember a thing about this episode. I don't remember it at all. But that doesn't mean that it won't start coming back to me as I begin to watch it for the first time in 50 years. You'd think I'd recall watching the lovely Barbara Feldon of Get Smart fame on my favorite show from that year, but here we are. As a footnote, the synopsis says it's the episode where we discover the origins of the CR in C.R. Grover. Now that might be the only thing I do remember about this episode. And when that information wasn't included in the very first Grover episode, I was beginning to think that I had imagined that little tidbit. So, without further ado, let's dive into this 8th episode of Search that first aired on the NBC television network on Wednesday, November 8th, 1972. As usual, if you haven't seen the episode, I'll only warn you once. Spoilers do lie ahead. Well, watching the teaser didn't jog any more memories than the synopsis did, so we'll just have to see what memories the episode brings as we go. Act 1 begins with a group of reporters questioning two men. Those reporters want to know why the court is insisting that Mr. J.R. Devlin appear in person. Could it have anything to do with a column written by Kate Dawes?
More question. Can you wait just a second? Just another listen, fellas. In spite of what you might have read in Miss Dawes' column, J.R. Devlin is alive, well, and in full possession of his faculties. He just happens to like privacy, and he can afford it. Are you saying that J.R. Devlin might be willing to stop construction on his New World Trade Center just to preserve his privacy? Is it right there?
At Search headquarters, Burgess Meredith, as VCR Cameron, freezes the video, and we see that this was taking place at a county courthouse in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's listed as a goof on IMDb that county courthouse is misspelled. I noticed that, and I thought the same thing until I realized that's just the way they shorten things to fit on the screen, as I've seen them abbreviate other things on the probe control monitors. Our old friend Dr. Barnett, played once again by the uncredited Ford Rainey, is back to give us the briefing for this mission via teleconference.
Well, there you have it.
It seems that Mr. J.R. Devlin is a recluse who hasn't been seen by anyone for the past 18 months. Barnett says the Kane newspaper syndicate has hired Probe to find out if Devlin is dead or alive.
Assignment, emergency search, J.R. Devlin.
After Dr. Barnett logs off, Cameron continues the briefing with backup probe agent C.R. Grover.
This one is Major Giles Matthews. He's Chief Executive Officer of Devlin Industries.
Giles Matthews is played by George Gaines.
George Gaines was born in May of 1917 in Helsinki to a Dutch father and Russian mother. He was raised in France, England, and Switzerland. He graduated from a Swiss college and attended a music school in Italy. He escaped the German occupation of France in 1940 by crossing the Pyrenees into Spain. He joined the Royal Netherlands Navy in 1943. When the Navy relocated to London, the British Royal Navy took him on as a translator, since he spoke Dutch, English, French, Italian, and Russian. He was living in France after the war when an American theater director offered him a part in a musical. He moved to New York and settled in on Broadway. In the 1960s he started playing characters on both film and television. On film, he was in the 1969 space thriller Marooned. Some notable television appearances were on Bonanza, Mannix, Mission Impossible, Hawaii Five-0, Hogan's Heroes. Search for Tomorrow, Search, Columbo, The $6 Million Man, Cannon. Macmillan and Wife, the made-for-TV movie trilogy of terror, McCloud, Black Sheep Squadron, Carter Country. WKRP in Cincinnati, Quincy M.E., Cheers, the Blue Thunder television series, and Matlock. His most successful television role was on the 1980s series Punky Brewster. But he is probably best known for his portrayal of the absent-minded Commandant Lassard in all 7 of the popular Police Academy movies. George Gaines died on February 15, 2016 at the age of 98.
Now the other one is James Barton, and he is Devlin's Chief of Security.
James Barton, played by Wallace Chadwell.
Wallace Chadwell was born on March 11, 1927. He started acting as a teenager in the 1941 feature film Adam Had 4 Sons. He was also in the 1946 film Bringing Up Father. In 1954 he appeared on television in an episode of I Married Joan. It wasn't until the 1970s that he started appearing on TV more often in shows such as The Bold Ones, The Lawyers, The Name of the Game, Columbo, Search, Bonanza, and Logan's Run. Wallace Chadwell died on January 25, 2000 at the age of 72.
Cam informs Grover that he will be partnering with the famed gossip columnist Kate Dawes on his current assignment. Grover doesn't look to be very happy about that, but he's off to Acapulco. Miss Dawes is there to attend an award ceremony where she will be receiving a journalism award.
I left a message for her to meet me in the patio for lobster and teriyaki and champagne. Away to a woman's heart.
Kate Dawes is played by the ever-lovely girl from my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Miss Barbara Feldon.
Barbara Feldon was born Barbara Ann Hall on March 12, 1933 in Bethel Park, a suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She graduated from Bethel Park High School and earned a bachelor's degree from what is now known as Carnegie Mellon University. She left Pittsburgh and moved to New York in 1957 to pursue a career in acting. She won the grand prize on the television game show The $64,000 Question. She used her winnings to open an art gallery with her friend Lucienne Feldon, who she later married. The stunning beauty started modeling and she also appeared in television commercials. Her commercial appearances led to small roles in television. Her big break came when the man who was developing the Get Smart series noticed her in a top brass hair products commercial. She was cast on Get Smart as Agent 99, the partner, and later the wife of Don Adams' bumbling Agent 86. The show went on for 5 seasons from 1965 to 1970. During the series, the 5'9" Feldon had to slouch so she wouldn't appear to tower over her co-star Don Adams, who was, would you believe, 5'7" and a quarter? After Get Smart ended, She guest starred on a number of shows and did voiceover work here and there. She reprised her role as Agent 99 in the TV movie Get Smart Again and in a few episodes of an attempted reboot of Get Smart with Maxwell Smart taking over as Chief of Control. Barbara Feldon reportedly lives in New York City.
Miss Dawes wonders what the CR in C.R. Grover stands for, and when Grover says Christopher, she guesses Robin. He says, "That's why I never use it." Christopher Robin. That's the only thing I could say I really remembered about this episode, and I thought I might have been imagining it.
I wish I had a cuddly name. Kate Dawes. Sounds like a tug button.
Sounds cuddly to me.
Grover and Kate start dancing.
I hope I don't step on your feet.
It'd be my pleasure.
Anyway, Doug McClure says a line, and then they turn so that Barbara Feldon is facing the camera. It just seemed very unnatural as they did this several times, with Doug McClure seeming to be concentrating on staying in frame rather than dancing normally. Grover sees a man at the bar, and he says Kate is being followed.
You have a shadow. They read you, Grover.
How he discerned that from just one glance is beyond me. Probe Control freezes Grover's scanner video to track the man down.
Freeze and store it.
It seems like an odd move to me, but Grover decides to confront the man. And the man tells Grover to buzz off.
Buzz off. Buzz off? Did you say buzz off?
This leads to a bar fight. I can see Bianco, or maybe even Lockwood, taking this guy, but Grover just looks pathetic in this scene. I can't believe that he was my favorite probe agent when these originally aired back in 1972. After Kate picks him up off the floor, Grover gathers himself and the two are off to Vegas. We see a 1.25-minute long Vegas montage featuring Kate and a rather drunk-looking Grover dancing and gambling. Then we see Grover being held in a large office, in handcuffs.
Oh, I'm sorry, a mere formality.
Major Matthews is one of the three other men in the room.
But then, I'm not the one who needs convincing.
C.R. Grover makes a good case for why J.R. Devlin should meet with him, but Matthews says he's not the one to be convinced. He's Devlin's number 2.
You'll just have to try harder.
That line would go right over the heads of a younger audience.
Goodbye, Mr. Grover.
Goodbye.
But in 1972, the Avis rental car company was number 2 behind Hertz, and they became famous for their slogan, "We try harder." When everyone has gone, Major Matthews tells his secretary to hold all of his calls, and he uses a sonic device to open a set of stainless steel doors leading to another office suite. Then we cut to the next scene. A man answers the phone. He's Jimmy, played by Tiger Joe Marsh.
Wait, President. Yes.
Who is it, Jimmy?
The call is for another man in the room, who I immediately recognized from the Star Trek episode Bread and Circuses. He's Kenyon Wade, played by Logan Ramsey.
Logan Ramsey was born Logan Carlisle Ramsey Jr. on March 21, 1921. He is the son of the lieutenant commander who sounded the alarm when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, and sending the famous message "Air Raid Pearl Harbor, this is no drill." The younger Logan also served in World War II as a Navy ensign. He began acting on Broadway and television in 1950. With more than 100 acting credits, too numerous to mention one by one, he was best known for portraying John Witter in the 1973 film Walking Tall, and its 1975 follow-up Walking Tall Part 2. Logan Ramsey died on June 26, 2000.
Wade takes the telephone call at a desk and mentions C.R. Grover, but he says not to worry about it.
As a matter of fact, things couldn't be working out better. Just relax.
This scene is rather annoying because there's a large black spot on the screen that doesn't move during this entire telephone call scene. Wade crosses the room with the spot and begins to talk to someone named Richard, who's off camera until we zoom in. And that's the end of Act 1. Act 2 opens with Grover and Miss Dawes back in the limo, exchanging fishing metaphors.
We've got a make on your friend from Acapulco. His name is Striker, Richard T. Used to be a bagman for the syndicate. He is now vice president for one of Kenyon Wade's companies.
These next scenes strike me as somewhat sloppy. First, their limo starts to make some wild maneuvers. I think Doug McClure overdoes it a bit, as Grover and Dawes are supposed to be jostled around in the back seat. Grover knocks on the glass between him and the driver.
They switched drivers on it.
It's a ridiculous... I was going to say it's a ridiculous rear projection scene, but then I realized there's not even a projection. It's just the three actors sitting in a car that's being bounced around way too much on a darkened set. What's up with that? The limousine pulls up in front of Wade Mansion. Once they're inside, Kenyon Wade greets his guests. I noticed that Logan Ramsey's voice was obviously dubbed in this scene, where the three of them are seated near a fountain. His sound is muted compared to the others, and there are times when his lips don't sync up. No doubt, the flowing water created a bit too much noise to obtain a usable audio track, so it was looped later. We've seen him several times before, but now Wade formally introduces Grover and Kate to Richard Stryker, who's played by Richard Lepore.
Richard Lepore was born on July 16, 1927. He played dozens of film and television roles throughout a career that lasted from 1958 through 1993. He appeared in 2 episodes of Search, In Search of Midas, and The Matson Papers. Richard Lepore died on November 27, 1998.
Wade claims that he is withdrawing his complaint, meaning there's now no need for Devlin to appear in court. The 2 investigators are free to go. Back in the limo, Grover and Dawes get a phone call from Major Matthews. Yes, car radio phones existed for those who could afford them in 1972.
Mr. Grover? Major Matthews.
They are invited to meet with J.R. Devlin, as long as Kate promises not to print anything about their meeting.
Oh, listen, you see before you the original, the one and only super silent gossip columnist.
Her pulse and respiration indicate probable big fat lie.
You're wrong, Murdoch. Not probable. Absolute.
When they're in the elevator on their way up to see Devlin, Cam says he thinks this might be a trick. It is, in a way. Devlin isn't really there. He's on a video screen.
Mr. Grover, may I present J.R. Devlin?
J.R. Devlin is played by David Bryan.
David Bryan was born Brian James Davis on August 5, 1914. He worked in vaudeville doing a song and dance routine before serving in the Coast Guard during World War II. After the war he returned to the stage for a while. Joan Crawford talked him into giving Hollywood film acting a try and he signed to Warner Brothers in 1949. He appeared in 3 films with Miss Crawford. On television, he appeared on such series as The Untouchables, Rawhide, Death Valley Days, Daniel Boone, Laredo. I Dream of Jeannie, Please Don't Eat the Daisies, The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., Star Trek, Mannix. Mission Impossible, Search, Heck Ramsey, Police Story, and Gunsmoke. David Bryan has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He died on July 15, 1993.
Grover has a document for Devlin to sign, and he's willing to do so.
You'll just initial the places you require my signature. Give it to the Major.
Mr. Devlin will sign them, and you and Miss Dawes will act as witnesses.
Major Matthews puts the thick folded document in a slot on the wall.
We'll transmit them to Mr. Devlin via our ComSat telecopier. He'll sign them, and in a matter of minutes, you'll have an original copy of the original.
I might have known it.
Devlin pulls an identical, neatly folded document out of a slot on his end. If they had this technology in 1972, why were we still using fax machines with thermal paper well into the 1990s? We're back at the casino, where Grover is playing the slots while talking to Cameron. Cam tells him that they need another sample of Devlin's signature to compare to the documents he signed. Grover has a plan.
It's the key to Devlin's elevator.
Grover tells Kate to spill the guacamole on him so he can lure Stryker away. And she's about to comply with that request when he suddenly changes his mind. I'm fairly sure that it was a bowl of guacamole that was spilled on him during the fight in Acapulco earlier. Kate spills her champagne on his jacket instead. And when he leaves to dry off, Stryker is hot on his tail. I wonder, can Grover take this guy? I don't know. Anyway, Grover stashes the scanner in his pocket and he ducks into a men's room. Stryker follows. Grover uses a key he'd lifted earlier to take the elevator to Devlin's office. Security knows he's there.
He just got off the elevator.
And that ends Act 2. Act 3 begins with Christopher Robin Grover examining the stainless steel doors that lead to the inner offices of Mr. J.R. Devlin.
Look at you. Tiny little hole.
Must be a microphone. And with the help of probe control, they generate the tone needed to open those doors.
But I congratulate you on being so knowledgeable.
When security shows up, Devlin orders them to stand down.
Right where you are.
It's all right. Mr. Grover's my guest. You can return to your station.
They ignore those orders. Someone knocks out the lights and Devlin gets away. Grover comes out from hiding under the desk and awkwardly takes the gun away from a man. Bianca was far superior at disarming someone holding a gun. Grover finds a pad of pre-signed blank checks. He gets a picture for Cam to compare the signatures, and then he starts running. He's trying to locate Devlin, but how would he even know where to look? He ends up in the basement garage. He shouts Devlin a few times. Doug McClure makes a jump that I'd expect to see a stunt double perform. The Foley thud is added when he lands the jump, but he still appears to be shouting after the sound is cut off. We hear a car start, and we see those 1970s style hidden headlight doors open as the lights come on. Grover must have been the star of his high school track team, because he can easily outrun that sedan. Kate is gone when he gets back to the lounge. Grover drives the limo back to Wade's place. He overpowers Jimmy, and he confronts Wade, Stryker, and another VP.
Mr. Grover's expected.
Grover wants to know where Kate is. Wade agrees to swap Kate for J.R. Devlin. For some strange reason, Grover picks up a pool cue. I thought he was going to use it to threaten Wade, maybe hit him over the back or something. Instead, he starts playing an odd game of pool, hitting whatever ball wherever it is. At one point, the camera angle changes, and the 12 ball suddenly transforms into a cue ball. Wade sweetens the deal with a securities portfolio. Grover accepts the deal. The last act begins with Grover telling Cam that he spoke with Devlin, who agreed to a meeting. Now this is sloppy exposition because Cam should already know that. After all, he's monitoring Grover's every move via the scanner, isn't he? Cam then informs Grover that all of Devlin's signatures match, but they match too closely. They're most certainly mechanical reproductions. When Grover and Devlin finally meet, Murdoch reports overlapping telemetry signals.
Wade and Matthews are set. All systems are set to go.
Just like an Apollo blastoff.
Think I'm picking up reverb interference on vital signs.
Wade and company show up early, and they're carrying guns.
It's 5 new sets of vital signs.
Grover, I think your company's already arrived.
Thank you, gentlemen. I wouldn't think of being late for my first appointment with J.R. Devlin. So few people are afforded that privilege.
Grover wants to see Kate, but it seems that Wade isn't going to keep his end of the bargain.
Well, I guess the next move's up to me.
Major?
I wouldn't move if I were you.
Oops. Wade wants to take Grover away, but Devlin says nobody's leaving until he opens the hangar door.
They're operated electrically, as you well know, my dear brother. I locked them when you came in to ensure privacy. Now, if you'll allow me, I'll open them again.
He presses a button, and a film starts. I'm confused. Who is fighting who? It seems to be a free-for-all, with all the criminals knocking each other out. I didn't know Search was supposed to be a comedy. If they'd tilted the camera, it would be more like Batman. All they need are some bams and pows. The police arrive, and they take all the bad guys away, leaving Grover and Devlin alone together. Grover found Devlin's glasses. Devlin is on the phone with the projectionist, who he says he had forgotten about.
Adrenaline surge.
Grover, he's reacting strongly.
Well, Mr. Grover, it looks like I owe you a great deal of thanks.
Oh, that's all right, Mr. Devlin. Isn't it, Mr. Devlin?
So we finally meet the real J.R. Devlin. He says he had hired Probe to test his own security forces. As they were wrapping up the episode, I wondered about a few things, like how was the substitute J.R. Devlin able to fool Devlin's own brother? That's a bit of a stretch. And where was Kate Dawes all this time? How did she end up handcuffed in the back of Grover's limo? I was a bit disappointed that I didn't get a chance to discuss Grover's preferred choice of vehicle in this episode. Now that I know that each probe agent has a personal car that they drive everywhere, even overseas. In this episode, Grover took the limo everywhere he went in Vegas, even driving it himself at one point. So, one final scene remains. What would a Search episode be if it didn't have our hero riding off somewhere with the girl? Grover and Kate are getting jiggy in the back of the limo, while Cameron has his usual conniption.
Oh, you're not authorized to do that, you hear me? Grover, you're not authorized to that kind of business. You're only authorized to come back here for a debriefing.
And that about wraps it up. If you liked what you saw here, hit that like button. Also, consider subscribing to my channel. Just smack the subscribe button and don't forget to activate the notification bell so you'll know when I post my next video. Thank you. I don't have a set schedule for when I upload these. I try to do a Search rewatch whenever I have the chance. I'll occasionally throw in an old TV movie reminiscence too, so look for those if you're so interested. Check out my review of Probe, the made-for-TV movie that served as a pilot for the Search series. Until the next time, save it!